My name is Michelle Pratt, and I'm a police officer. That wasn't my goal growing up. I was a preschool teacher for 18 plus years. My kids were getting to the point where they were graduating from high school, and I just thought, I need to do something else for the rest of my career, and it's probably not gonna be this. So I went on a ride along with one of my really good friends, and it was on New Year's Eve, and it was a lot of fun. I just remember going home that night thinking, how can I be a part of this? Because everybody that I came into contact that night, as far as police officers, were so kind. And again, they treated people very well. Patrol is where you can be just sitting in your car, and then all of a sudden you're running lights and sirens to a call. And then 10 minutes later, you're done with it and you're just walking back to your car. Like, I just remember thinking, that is controlled chaos, and I like that. So I started looking around. I did their Citizens Police Academy. And then I realized they have what is called a community services officer, and it's a part-time job in uniform. And then these officers, they go out and they investigate crimes that don't have known suspects. So I knew that would probably be a good way to get my foot in the door, and also just to see if I wanted to be a police officer, because I wasn't quite sure. I applied and I got hired as a community services officer. And then about a year into it, I realized when all these officers are running code to these big calls, I'm sitting in a parking lot because I can't go to those. And I didn't really like that. So that's when I realized that I need to put in for police officer, because I think that's where this path is leading me. When we were talking about how we personalize our vests and put challenge coins in them. Mm-hmm. One of the wives of an officer who works here sent me the Wonder Woman. That's awesome. I have that with me on my vest. In Salem, we have a lot of support. You'll see as we drive around, people wave to us all the time. Our chief has always had this philosophy that we don't accept gratuity from anybody. So I quit going to Starbucks through their drive-thru for coffee, because every time I go, the person ahead of me pays for my coffee. And so I always try and do the same thing. So if there's somebody behind me, I pay for their coffee, just so it's, I'm at least giving back something. So
that's cool.
Yeah. I was working early graveyard. My shift started at 8 o'clock at night. So I went up to an area in my district that is known for drug activity. So I picked up one vehicle that stood out to me. A female had been at another vehicle, saw me, and then she immediately went to this van and got in. I can see that the male driver is watching me out the driver's side mirror. We operate on clues, or red flags as we call them, and that's one of them. If they're watching me out their mirror, they obviously don't want to have police contact. As soon as the female gets in the van, he immediately backs up and starts taking off out of the parking lot. I immediately got a violation on him, and I turned on my overhead lights to pull him over. But he wouldn't stop immediately, so that's my other clue that this isn't your ordinary traffic stop. So when I finally walked up to the driver's side window, passenger was already out of the vehicle. And so that's another sign right there. Her comment was, I don't want to have anything to do with this. And so that's another red flag, because that's not a normal statement for a passenger to say. So at that point, I called for a second officer to come to my location just to keep eyes on her in case she didn't leave the area.
337, we stopped at Highland and 5th.
337, copy.
337, if I have a second unit, I have a passenger getting out.
I heard on the radio I had two other officers who piped up, said that they were going to come cover me, and I knew they weren't very far off, so I was good with what was going on. As I'm standing there, he is sitting with his hands on his lap, just still as can be. I mean, it is like half a second. He's immediately diving for something underneath his leg. My brain told me he's going for a gun. Even though I hadn't seen a gun, he obviously wasn't diving for, a driver's license or anything else. He had the intention of diving for something that I knew was gonna hurt me. And so as soon as I saw him move and it registered with me that he's going for a gun, I turned to my right and took a step so I could get out of that window. And as soon as I took a step, my first step, I heard the first shot go off behind my head.
Shots fired! I've been hit!
Code 9337, shots fired. She's been hit. Highland and 5th Street Northeast.
5th and Highland, I've been hit multiple times. Vehicle just took off northbound. I need medics, code 3.
Copy. Code 3 medics, multiple gunshots.
I'm 5th and Highland. I need medics, code 3. Been hit 3 times.
Copy 3 times. Medics are being dispatched.
Flying a tourniquet on my leg. Oh, shit. I was hit in the left arm and then once in my vest.
Copy. Left arm and once in the vest.
When I first met Jake, we were working together at the police department and we were working graveyard. But I specifically remember being on calls with Jake and thinking, I could go on calls with him all the time because we treat people the same way. It's a funny story because I knew that he liked to run, so it just kind of started from there. We started running together. It just kind of took off from there. He was a good running partner. There was days we would end our shift and we would just run without even talking and just having that, quiet space where it wasn't uncomfortable and we just knew today we're just running. We're not talking about anything. But then other days, there's talking and running and it grew into this friendship that I didn't expect there to be. And so it just kind of went from there. And that's, and we decided, hey, let's get married. Well, we have 4 combined. I have 3 from a previous marriage. He has 1. We have Shelby, who's the oldest, and then Peter, he's in the Air Force. And then we have Paul, and then Drew, of course, and then Ellie's the youngest. The kids have taken Jake in as their second dad, and they will call him for issues that they can't figure out themselves. And it's really fun to see that it's not my kids or his, it's ours together.
I was working late graveyard, which starts at 10 o'clock to 8. And I was packing up, getting ready to walk out. It was about 8:45. Finished making my lunch, and my personal phone rings. It was a phone call from a guy that I knew was already on shift. I answer the phone, and he says, hey, she's gonna be okay, but Michelle's been shot. He kept talking. I don't know what he said. I hung up the phone, and my brain was just racing. I went flying through the ambulance entrance, got the doors open. I turned the corner to walk down towards the 2 trauma rooms. I was not quite to the room when I could hear her laugh. And that was the sweetest sound for me, because I knew if she was laughing, she's good.
I ended up with 3 wounds that were in and out, that were through and through, and then 1 hit my vest. It was about 1 inch from the bottom of my vest. If I hadn't had that vest on, or if it had missed my vest, it could have done a lot of internal damage. I was surprised by how well those vests can stop 45 rounds at that close range. It's pretty amazing.
Her role as a wife, as a mother, was so much more important. So being able to survive for those reasons, and we can eventually retire and be old and broken and chase our cows around together, is just incredible.
Being number 2058, I feel very, very fortunate because I got to come home and be with my family.